Hello, welcome back. This is Miniature Mike, and it's finally about time. I put a pull out a while ago to do this, and so we're going to do the KOTOR cast characters from 1 and then characters from 2. And I threw in some couple bonus characters that are either, kind of part of it or they're part of like comics associated with KOTOR. So I'm looking forward to this. Been a long time coming, but definitely KOTOR fan favorite. Awesome characters in this set. And we'll go see what we got. So let's dive right on into this. First ones first is the kind of infamous Bastila Shan. So the hard thing with Bastila is, and we'll get to it in a second, one of the earlier KOTOR characters, really kind of cool at first, but unfortunately, even on launch, I'd argue is kind of underpowered for sure. So let's dive in. So HP-wise for 46, it's fair. It could be better, but 110, it could be better. It's not too bad. The survivability is fine in terms of range because you do have deflect. You have okay defense. For melee, you don't got anything. So I'd say survivability a little bit iffy, but again, not too bad. The attack is good. 13, nothing to write home about, but it'll pass. Your max damage, I think, is nice because you do have triple. You have that 20 damage, of course. So that is nice that she can do those extra attacks to do a little bit more offensively, but then you're missing a little extra, maybe a little extra spice, maybe like other abilities that can kind of boost it, make it more strong, but that's good. Good that she has triple. In terms of special abilities, it's fine. You have triple. That's good to have, but nothing else. Force power-wise, and this is kind of a complicated one, and one thing I've always had a hard time with Bastila is the fact that she has limited force, but she has 2 commander effects you can choose from. So Force Meditation basically is like giving a form of synergy, essentially. And I don't think it's that good, but it could have a use. And then there's Force Valor, which is okay as well. You give the +2 attack, +2 defense to people followers within 6 squares. And you'll need droids to probably help out with that, but it's only +2. It's not like the craziest thing ever. So you have options to use 2 force point, 2 different commander effects. You could do both of them, and then you have no force. So I think Bastila is just really a really tricky character because you have those options, and if you don't want to use them, you do have deflect, which is of course a very nice power to have for defense, and then sweep is fine. It's just like it's okay power. So I'm not a big fan of Bastila's force situation going on here. It's just not my cup of tea. I wish Bastila, they didn't really they did have it at the time, but they were more, Wizards of the Coast was more, I don't know, they were more conservative in who they gave it to, but it would be nice if she had renewal, just so you had more options here, or maybe you just had different powers or more force. So unfortunately, I'm not a big fan. I say the force powers are poor, and I know that's kind of not fair because you do have 4 force and some options, but it's just not a set that I think is very helpful. So ability synergy, kind of poor. The versatility is okay because you do have options for commander effects if you want them. And in terms of KOTOR score, I just gave her a 3. I think I could have been more harsh, but I'll call it that. Blue Milk is kind of the same way. Character about $45 on eBay, but I'd say the pros with Bastila, it's on the cheaper end of having triple attack. Sometimes triple attack people tend to be a little more expensive. You do have a lot of commander effect options via force powers, but they're not that great. And then the cons, I just think it's super underpowered. Bastila, even on launch, I think was kind of crappy, which is too bad because Bastila is one of the most famous characters from the game. So people have made a lot of redos. I know the V sets, they have improvement ones too. So anyways, that's the first one, is Bastila Shan. So disappointing character, unfortunately, as I think people who are in the community know about very well. So let's move on to our next friend, which is HK47. Awesome fan favorite, fun character. On launch, I think that HK is actually pretty solid, but of course is kind of the shine's kind of worn off a little bit, become a little more underpowered, but definitely a lot of fun. I remember forever ago, my cousin had this character. We all always wanted to use it because he had 30 damage, and not many characters had it at the time. And then he had cunning attack too, which is fun. So overall, a good character as well. The HP is kind of poor, so shooters that cost 32, they'll typically have more than that, maybe in the 80s. So it's a little underpowered for the HP. The survivability's not there. You just have the low HP and then you have decent defense, but you have no other abilities to help you out. Your attack, I'd say, is pretty great, and because 10 attack on a shooter is already really good, and then assuming you use cunning attack maybe half the time, you get the +4, so 14. That's a really nice attack. And then the damage goes along with it. It's nice to have the base damage be 30, because it's always great to have that. And then having the 48 damage built on with cunning attack, being +14 and 40, that's not bad. That's a really solid just kind of power shot going on right there. So a lot of fun. When it comes to special abilities, cunning attack's nice, especially how it builds off of the stats like I mentioned. Flamethrower 20 is pretty fun too. Experienced players will probably be wise and not give you opportunities to use it. But it is fun that you do have an option where you can do auto damage to a character or to a group of characters if it permits, which I think is fine. Flamethrower is a nice ability to have. In terms of abilities and versatility, I think they're both good. I think the cunning attack works well off the stats, and then in terms of versatility, like I mentioned, you can be a power shooter, and then flamethrower is nice as well. So it's solid. For KOTOR, I give it a 3 as well. And then Blue Milk, it's kind of similar rating that Bastila had, kind of in the low 7s. I think a little bit better than Bastila, honestly, just because it's a fun shooter. But he is a power shooter, I designate. Again, kind of pricey-ish on eBay right now. Pros, so a nice power shooter. For the time, still not bad. Mixes well with CIS, obviously. You can get some fun upgrades with this guy, of course, with the Separatists. The cons, I think it's largely overtaken by the HK50s. So the HK50s, mind you, I think are a hair cheaper. They have more HP slightly, and they do Opportunist instead of Cunning Attack. So very similar, just kind of opposite of him, but maybe just a little bit better at the end of the day, just a little bit. But HK47 is fun. So, and then a bit underpowered now, but still a good character. HK47's fun. Probably won't really use him too much though. Next, we got Canderous Ordo from Bounty Hunters. Cost is 48. This guy is quite a handful. So, first things first, he's definitely designated in the great category at 3.96. I think his HP is awesome. Like, holy crap. Being a shooter, any shooter, even if you're an expensive shooter, having 120 HP is pretty legit. So, that's fantastic. You can even argue you have more HP than that with regeneration. So, I could have even given it a 5. So the range survivability, I'd say, is great. And the reason why I said that is because you have high HP. Their defense is nice, and if you're in cover, it's even better. The 17 can go to 21, and then regeneration, again, is just another little thing when it comes to melee survivability and ranged, where you are constantly basically undoing damage people are giving to you as long as you're not moving. So that's really, really good. Really, really nice. A big fan of that for sure. The attack is kind of fair at this level. So this guy's more expensive. He's a 48 and he has 10 attack. Shooters that are this expensive might have a little more attack, but it's still totally solid. 10's great for sure. It's more than enough to do what you need to do. Max damage is exceptional. So you got 30 damage, solid attack, and then you have triple. So this guy just unleashes attacks, and then there's plenty of Mandalorian commander effects. There's a variety of commander effects where you can up this damage and do a lot more and do some really scary stuff. You find a way to give him... is there a way to give him greater mobile attack? There might be. I don't know. But either way, fantastic. Very good. It's a good thing they didn't give him heavy weapon just because of the size of that gun. But anyways, special abilities, great. Triple and regeneration. It's only 2, but they're really good for what he's got. Synergy is really fantastic with the triple attack. He can stand still, take damage, regenerate, and just dish the damage out very nicely. I'd say he's not quite as versatile though. It's not bad though, because he is a shooter that can, anytime you're a shooter with really good stats, you can do things, and he's also a follower, of course. But definitely the ability synergy is where he shines for sure. So I gave him a great KOTOR score. Blue Milk's pretty high on him. He's a power shooter like HK47, but this guy's way better, in my opinion. And he's not that expensive. So his pros, he has incredible firepower, he's beefy and hard to kill. And then his cons is he's kind of somewhat one-dimensional. Is it a big deal? Not really, but he is a pretty fantastic character. So big fan of Canderous. When I was a kid growing up, this guy was really, really popular with my buddies. Everyone wanted to get him, trade for him, just because the idea of doing that much damage and being that beefy was fun. It's a fun character. So let's move on now to some of the actual characters from the KOTOR set. So we have Atton Rand, cost is 26, and I'd say he's really good. I'll say one thing first, and so on the surface, sometimes I look at Atton Rand and then Carth Onasi, and I see them, and I'm like, oh, they're really similar. They do 10 damage, low attack, but then they have some form of like twin attack or double or some ways to kind of like modify and get more damage. Obviously, they're very different. But one thing you will see between these two kind of sort of similar-ish characters is Atton Rand is way better than Carth. And the reason is this guy can modify other than modifying his damage and doing more attacks, he can modify his attack and actually hit guys. So when we get to Carth later, I'll explain that. So first things first, his HP is fair. 60 is not bad for a shooter at this cost bracket. But just to note, it is 60 fine. The survivability's not there. He doesn't really got it in terms of survivability, so watch out, be careful. The attack's really solid. So having 8 attack, that's a very solid attack for a shooter. But then to be able to add Jedi Hunter and Cunning Attack to get to 16, depending on circumstances and conditions, that's really, really strong. So I could have even bumped that up even more probably. Probably should have to maybe like a 4. But it's really nice. But Jedi Hunter, depending on the squad you're against, maybe it'll happen. Cunning Attack will happen more frequently for sure. Max damage is great, and the reason why is you have double. You do have 10, but it's fairly common that you'll be able to use your Cunning Attack plus 20 and Jedi Hunter, depending on circumstances again, so that's really nice. Special abilities are awesome. So Cunning Attack plus 20, I'd say is one of the better abilities in the game. It's so strong. Door Gimmick is nice to have too. It doesn't replace attacks or anything, so you can do a little bit of door control with that. Double, and then Jedi Hunter. And then he does count as a Force sensitive, so play that in however you want to, but that is kind of fun. Ability synergy is exceptional. All these powers kind of cascade together to do a lot of damage towards Force users. The versatility, I think, is also fine, just because of the amount of attacking you can do, Cunning Attack, and then Door Gimmick is a nice versatile power to kind of help the team out a little bit. For KOTOR, I give him a 3.5, just because I think he's kind of in the really good range. Very solid character, has a purpose. He's an anti-Sith kind of rapid shooter, or anti-Force user rapid shooter, or power shooter in a way. A bit pricey, kind of, sort of, on the $32. And then pros, when the time is right, he can do some pretty extreme devastation to Force users. Part of that is because Cunning Attack 20 is nice. Really nice. And then his cons are he's a bit too reliant on circumstances, because without circumstances being right, he kind of stinks as a shooter. To be honest, he's pretty vanilla, but he's really, really good once you kind of maneuver him in the right way. So definitely a fun character. Let's move on now to Bao-Dur. I really like this guy a lot as a kid, especially since I've always been kind of prone to like droid characters. I love the Separatists. But the thing with him is he's still he's a fine character, but he has his limitations. So Bao-Dur costs 33. He's definitely a good character for sure and has his very specific kind of role. He is really good HP. 90 is pretty high for a shooter at this level, so that's nice. Got 90 HP is good, really good. The survivability, though, across the board, it's not good. So other than the HP being nice, the defense is fine, but a lot of this guy, he needs to do his damage up close because of his abilities, which doesn't kind of lend himself well to certain things, to survivability, so I have to note that it's not there. The attack isn't very good either, and he can't modify his attack on his own, so just +7, not great attack, especially for someone who costs 33. You'd hope to have like 8 or 9 attack, but that's unfortunately it is what it is. I will say though that the max damage is solid, so he does have twin, so it's nice he can move and shoot twice to do 40, but then he can do Mighty Swing, so if you're next to somebody, then he can do 60 potentially, it's pretty solid. So special abilities, I say they're great. You have Demolish, which isn't really going to happen very often, especially if you're doing like a faction versus faction, Sith Old Republic thing. So it's fine if that comes up, but it probably won't happen very often. Destabilized shields is fun. I kind of see that as like an anti-Sith assault droid power. Again, may not run into it very often. Mighty Swing is nice to have, and then Repair 30 is awesome. I really love Repair 30 on this guy. If you really kind of build your squads around him, leveraging that, maybe using specific helpful droids, that can be kind of fun. And then Twin Attack is nice. So the ability synergy is pretty solid, especially how Demolish, Destabilize Shields, and Mighty Swing and Twin, those work really, really well together with that type of offense, that kind of melee, kind of bruising offense. And then the ability synergy, I'd say, is pretty good. Like I mentioned, versatility is really good, especially kind of with some of those interesting things to suppress shields, repair things, mess up damage reduction. So I think he's a decently versatile character. I'd say he's also in the really good category. I gave him a 3.5. Blue Milk isn't really as high on him as I am. I understand why, but I really just kind of I've always been a little bit, I don't know, maybe biased or towards this guy. I understand he's definitely not the best, but I think he's fun. And I really like running him with the Juggernaut War Droids too, because he can really do a great job of keeping them alive, because those are very fun to use. But anyways, he's specialties, or he's a mechanic and a melee bruiser. Very cheap to pick up. Pros, he's nice pairing with droids. He's kind of designed to kill Sith Assault droids in a way. The cons are bad attack. He's really reliant on needing to get close for his offense. And then droids are generally not great on Old Republic. It's not really what the faction's designed for. But him having Repair 30 can make it more interesting situation. So, a fun character for sure. Carth. So Carth Onasi, I think he sucks, unfortunately. If you just kind of like look at him for 5 seconds, he kind of reminds, his stats and powers in some ways kind of make me think of Atton Rand. Except the problem is this guy's stuck at 7 attack, whereas Rand can go all the way up to 16, in fairly common circumstances. So Carth, unfortunately, he's just, oh man, they really missed out making this guy a special character, unfortunately, because his powers are pretty good, really, really nice powers, to be honest with you, but he can't hit anything. So his hit points they're bad. I mean, for costing 37. 70 doesn't quite cut it. Could be worse. The range survivability in general is okay, simply because you have intuition, so you can use that kind of tactical advantage to get in and out of situations. Your attack is terrible, so 7 attack on someone who costs 37 is kind of disgraceful, especially pairing that with the amount of damage he does. So the thing with him and damage is he's got damage 10, he's got twin, double, Deadeye, so theoretically he should be able to do 80 damage, but there's no way that's going to happen. Just absolutely no way that's going to happen on his own. So if you want him to do better, you'll have to bring in help. But it's bad. So I feel like his damage is what holds him back significantly. If this guy had higher base damage and that's all, like if he had like 10 based attack and that's it, that'd be a lot more fun, a lot more interesting. But he doesn't, so it's a big bummer here. So the max damage can be great, but you're probably never going to achieve it. Special abilities, I think, are awesome though. This is the thing. He's got Pilot, unique, so Deadeye, very nice ability, especially paired with Intuition. So Intuition and Deadeye work well because you can set yourself up, you don't move, you get the 10 damage, you can do double and twin. So lots of great powers to just really kind of pick and shoot, do a great job there. But you're not going to hit anything. Industrial Repair 10 is fine to kind of tack on. You're not going to use it. There's really, I can't even think of someone that has mounted weapon anyway in Old Republic, so it'd have to be a fringe character. So Industrial Repair 10, in my opinion, not that great. But whatever. And then moving on, his ability synergy is awesome. Like I mentioned, these abilities do work well together, but they get undercut by bad attack. Versatility is fine. The KOTOR score is fair. Like he's not like a horrible character, but it's pretty bad. He's a pretty bad character. 5.58 on Blue Milk is actually a pretty bad score, and he's expensive. So he's a collectible character. He's a very rare. Costs about $50 right now. His pros are he has great abilities for tactical setup. His cons though is he's just mega nerfed version in a way of Atton Rand. He has no attack modifier, which kills, and then he can't hit anything, and he'll die, before he can. If he does a barrage and sets up, he'll just get killed. So unfortunately, this guy is a dud out of Avoidum. Okay, next we really changed things up by going to Mira. I think Mira is freaking incredible. Unfortunately, I haven't used her much, but this got quite a set of powers and abilities that are fantastic. So first things first, I gave her the great rating. It's pretty high, especially for all these different characters. So for HP, it is poor. It's not the end of the world. I mean, she costs 47 at 80 HP. Han Solo, a scoundrel, also is kind of in that same boat, a little low on the HP, but that's okay given that this is more of like a mobile, avoid kind of being in the spotlight character. The survivability, though, I'd say range survivability, pretty good, mostly because you have a mobile attack and you can kind of keep out of, you don't need to shoot people and be exposed, you can kind of stay out of it. Melee survivability, not really there. Don't really have anything to help in that sense, but your attack is awesome. So 12 attack on a shooter, plus if you want to use Bounty Hunter against the uniques at 16, that's awesome. Big check mark right there. The max damage is great, and this is why. So you do 20 base, and then you have twin attack, so you'd think that's fine, just 40 attack, 40 damage, but you have Splash, and Splash is such a fun ability to just kind of give that residual damage, like, oh, you miss, no big deal, you might still do damage, or you hit people and you still do damage. So the splash powers are really nice to just kind of more or less guarantee that something's going to happen. And the fun part is you have accurate shots, so you can really deliberately pick and choose, like, oh, there's a group of characters, I'm going to light them up, or there's someone I really want to shoot, I'm going to shoot them and have them deal with splash damage potentially too. So that's fun. For sure. The special abilities are exceptional. Like, look at this. Okay, so you have accurate shot and bounty hunter and twin and mobile and splash. So all those go together awesome, because if you want to shoot a unique, that's 16 attack. That's great. You can choose who you want to attack. You can attack them twice on the move. Super great. That's just all good stuff there. And then the Splash 10 is a nice cherry on top, too. You do have Demolition Charge, which probably isn't going to happen very often. It just isn't. So it's like, against people, a huge or larger character with mounted weapon, you can just kind of blow them up. It's really only going to work against fringe characters. I'd kind of not worry about that power, but the fact that it exists, kind of fun. First, force powers, I think, are great, and this is kind of why. So you have 2 force powers and it's Force Sense, and that can be pretty nice. There's circumstances where if you can eliminate enemy stealth, it's a big help to the team for sure. So I think that's worth kind of giving some kind of extra credit to. Ability synergy is exceptional. You have so many powers, they all cascade, they all work together flawlessly to do some pretty, kind of pretty surgical work for the team. Also still very versatile. These types of powers, they lend themselves to being both good for synergy and good for versatility. KOTOR score is exceptional. I gave her a 5. I'm really, really high on Mira. A lot of fun. Again, Mira does have her weaknesses. Like, for example, one of her cons, she is kind of pricey. She's almost 50 in terms of cost. And the HP is not quite there. You got to watch out. You are missing things like Evade, for example, like Han Solo Smuggler, who I kind of compare her against. A lot of similar powers in some ways. He's got Evade, so that's something that's kind of like, okay, just kind of watch out, but still really good. So I'd say incredibly versatile, potent all around, great hit and run, especially against uniques, because that's super, super high attack. So very fun there, I'd say. Mira, really, really fun character. Highly recommend if you can pick her up to get her and then try her out. A lot of fun. So next one we do have is Vices Marr. So Vices Marr reminds me a lot of like the Depa Baleba Even Peel kind of mold, where like the same stats, same cost, similar kind of like, powers and kind of extra power too and force powers. So very similar mold to those types. So Depa Baleba, I'd say, is really good. Your HP's very solid, very standard HP for this cost, 90 HP. The range survivability isn't good. The melee survivability is pretty good though, especially because you have block, and that can be quite helpful in that circumstance. Your attack it's fair, for having 10 attack as a melee character. That's definitely fine, especially costing this cheap. Your max damage is solid. You're just having a double attack, 20 damage each. Special abilities are pretty good, and this is why. So, double attack, you have bodyguard, and you have a lot of HP to make bodyguard kind of worth it, depending on the circumstance. Flurry attack is a fun, just kind of cherry on top. It's not going to happen often, but when it does, that's nice. And it's a trap's really good. So when this character is kind of nearby another character, or kind of in a position where she can kind of screw the enemy up, that's pretty sweet to have. Especially, it's just nice. It's a trap is a nice power to have. So definitely like that one. Force powers I'd say are also really good. You only have 3, but you have Force Sense and you have block. So you might say, hey, why were you so high on Mira? Yeah, I think I probably gave too much credit for her having Force Sense, but since it's a shooter and it's a character you wouldn't normally associate anyways with having force powers, for being that type, I don't know. Maybe I'd redo it if I went back, but either way, Sense is nice, and then having block is always, of course, good for those melee situations. This ability synergy and the versatility, both really good. Powers work together. And quite versatile, especially having things like Sense, and it's a trap, and even being a bodyguard. So I'd say arguably it's actually maybe more versatile than I gave her credit. KOTOR score is really good, Blue Milk 7.7, and then the anti-stealth specialist. Absolutely, it's a trap and Sense work together to make that very good. So pros, great anti-stealth specialist and team support, capable melee duelist. The cons are just not really OP at any one thing, just kind of solid in general, but poor against range, I'd say, for sure. So definitely like a really nice all-around character. Definitely a solid one. Not overwhelming, not bad, just a very solid individual character. Next we have Jolee Bindo, who is kind of regarded as one of just a very, very interesting force user, because this set gives you some really nice force users that are fringe and they're cheap. So you can do all sorts of insane stuff with them. I'm not going to get into all that, but because they are fringe, lots of teams can do all sorts of crazy stuff. So that being said, Jolee Bindo gets a great rating. It's really high by my standards. Costs 23. The HP is really good at 80. That's really good for someone who costs that cheap in his melee. Range survivability is great, along with the melee survivability. The reason why these are both great, so for one, you do have deflect, that's great for the ranged. You do have stun, that's really nice to, again, activate characters that could harm you, could harm the team. That's a really good thing to do too. And then avoid defeat sprinkled on top is going to help quite a bit. It's fun to have avoid defeat and force powers because you can reroll saves, which is very, very nice to keep this character alive. So your attack for 9 is solid. Your max damage, very standard, 20 damage, 2 attacks. Special abilities are great. Being able to have double and having avoid defeat in this circumstance, there's a lot of stuff you can do with this. You could give him more force points by somebody. You could find a way to have him use force points extra times so he can use avoid defeat more often. There's a lot of options there. Again, I won't go into them, but please comment about them if you can think of any. I could probably sit down and theorycraft a lot, but definitely very fun and versatile. So I'd say force powers are also great. Stun's nice. Valor's kind of fun to have on this cheap character, and then deflect is good. Synergy is very nice. I'd say the versatility of this character is pretty insane because the force powers are all very versatile. Stun and Valor being nice, but then the ability to be fringe and to be able to use avoid defeat, you just can do. It's kind of like a blank canvas. You can do all sorts of great stuff with. So KOTOR score, I'd give him a 4.5. It's awesome. Blue Milk agrees. He's a survivalist, a tactical duelist. About $60 on eBay. His pros: he's an awesome support Jedi. He's fringe and cheap, which is fantastic. Awesome survivability. The cons, maybe not exactly that great on offense, but that's okay. That's not exactly what he's for anyway. So Jolee Bindo, definitely a great character. Next, we're kind of almost halfway through. This is going to be a very long video, so I hope you enjoy. Overall, great. Another kind of similar situation, a cheap fringe Jedi that's really powerful. I think Juhani's a little bit better personally, but Blue Milk disagrees with me. HP is good, again, at 80. The survivability, the range, actually both survivabilities are fantastic, and this is why. So you have stealth right off the bat, that's really nice against the range characters. But then you also have Duelist, which is helpful for those melee situations. For Force powers, you have Force Cloak if you choose to use it, which is extremely powerful against range situations. It's just kind of one-up stealth. And then you have Lightsaber Block. So if you can get more Force points, and even if you don't want to use Cloak, you'll still be fine against range characters. And then you can use Block and Duelist against the melee situation. So great survivability all around on this one. The attack is fair. A 9 attack's a little low, kind of, for Jedi, but that's okay. 9's not bad. The max damage is really good, and here's kind of what's going on. So base, it's just 2 attacks for 20, but you can add Sith Rage, so 2 attacks for 30, that's 60 damage. And then it's a lot of fun because you have Vicious Attack and Deadly Attack, so you're twice as likely to get a critical, and when you do, it's triple damage instead of double. So then, even though it's still not very likely, it's just have to make note of it. You can do a lot more damage with Juhani with this cheap Jedi than you'd expect, which is pretty fun. The special abilities are awesome, kind of similar to Jolee Bindo. Jolee Bindo only has kind of a couple options, but these are great. You have double, melee, deadly, and vicious are a fun kind of cherry on top tandem. Stealth, fantastic. Lightsaber Duelist, really nice. You can be a melee Jedi costing 25 and having 21 defense. That's really nice in those melee situations. So really good there. The Force powers are great. Cloak, fantastic to have. Block and Sith Rage. If you can find a way to get more Force, that's really what you got to do. This mini can be pretty deadly when you do that. So the ability synergy and their versatility, I think they're both exceptional. Because it's like you're incredibly survivable against both. You can dish out a ton of damage in situations. Being able to have, Cloak just kind of makes, like, all these powers synergize amazing together. Having stealth and Cloak can make you extremely versatile. So I think this is just so strong. Oh my gosh. I gave Juhani an awesome rating of 4.5. I was thinking about a 5, but I figured I want to leave it just for a couple characters. So Blue Milk score, 8.01. Really good. This is a stealth duelist. Bit pricey for sure at $70. Pros, great. Also fringe and cheap. Extreme survivability. Can have some really potent offense. But the cons, just limited force power. If you can give them a little more force power, you're going to be in great shape. So definitely work that in probably, and they'll have a lot of fun. And the good news, Juhani's fringe. Lots of characters can fix that in various factions. Next we got Kreia. So the famous Kreia. One of the most rare and expensive minis in the game, and extremely powerful in my opinion. So jump right into Kreia. So here's the thing. So Kreia is 43. A great mini. HP is poor though. So at 43, only having 100 HP, not great. That's actually not very sweet. Most characters at 43 have more HP than that. The range survivability though is fantastic, and the reason why, it's kind of conditional, but you have Force Cloak, so you can basically give yourself the opportunity, kind of hide in stealth. No one can hit you. That's really good. And then your melee survivability, it's not that good either. You don't really have anything to help you in the melee situations. But indirectly, Betrayal helps, of course, and then indirectly, Drain Life kind of sort of helps, but anyway. Your attack is bad. So 11 attack, well, it's not that. It's just poor. It could be better. 11 attack on a 43 melee, it's underwhelming. I mean, people at that level tend to be like in the 13s, maybe 14 range. Obi-Wan Kenobi's 15. So it's on the low side. So max damage is really good though. You have a couple options here. Drain Life 3 can be fantastic. And then you also have triple attack. However, one thing to note, and why max damage could be even better, is you have triple for 20. Flurry attack is nice. That could be helpful as well if you get the critical hit. But Drain Life 3 is not a replaces attacks. So you can do a triple attack, Then, if the circumstances are possible, you can then dish a ton more damage to other characters, which is pretty fun. So keep in mind, you can do both of these on one turn, and that's pretty devastating. So a lot of fun. Special abilities are exceptional. It's because you have triple. You're a cheap character with triple. Betrayal. Even though betrayal is not a frequent thing to happen, the fact that it exists is so terrifying. It's like, I feel like betrayal and disintegrations, they're powers that don't happen very often, but when they do, they totally change the game, totally swing the game. So I gotta give a 5 here. And then flurry attack is nice. It's a trap, really good, especially if you give force cloaked. Then you can get really close to enemies. They'll have a hard time hitting you still unless they're next to you, and you can screw up stealth, which is great. So force powers, awesome. You need to give her a little more. She's missing force points. You need more, but force cloak is great, and then drain life is pretty sick. Ability synergy and versatility, both super high. KOTOR score, I decided to give Kreia a 5. But the fact that Kreia's fringe and has all this stuff going for her, if you put her on just any team to give a little bit more force, or maybe certain commander effects, like, oh my gosh, Kreia will be insanely destructive. Specialties, kind of a master manipulator, that being mostly due to having betrayal. It's a trap, can be really frustrating for the enemy to have to deal with. And the approximate eBay price is $250, so Kreia is pretty much tied for most expensive mini with only maybe a couple others. Very hard to get. I remember I got lucky to pick mine up, so definitely a fun one if you can pick her up. The pros, just optional, excellent survivability. Nice to have that force cloak, really good. Is fringe and cheap, so obviously not as cheap as the last two, but so powerful and still cheap, and fringe, so like, goodness gracious. Betrayal, super nice deterrent, outrageous if she's given more force points. I think Drain Life 3 is ridiculous if you have more force points. So definitely got to load up on the force points there. And then the cons, again, like I've mentioned at the beginning, the stats are a bit low. In fact, they are low. They are undeniably low, but it's good. It's balanced. It helps balance her out for all the totally wicked stuff that she's capable of. So definitely have to balance it out, which is good. And then again, force points being 4, find a way to get more, and you will be golden. So Kreia, really cool, really cool character. Obviously, can understand why she's so rare and expensive because of the kit that she has. Next, we have Mission Vow, very solid, not as overwhelmingly powerful as the last characters we saw. So cost 27, kind of poor HP though, 60 HP. On a melee character this level, you'd prefer to have 80. Melee, its survivability is awesome. Main reason why is... range survivability is awesome. Melee due to having stealth. That's really helpful. Maybe overrated a little bit, but stealth very nice. Melee survivability, not good. The attack is... I wasn't very fair. This is why. So I gave attack of 8 is not good. So... characters that are melee and cost 27 typically have more attack than that. Typically they are in the double digits or more. But the fact that you have cunning attack, that definitely does help. Keep that in mind. So if you factor that in, the attack's more in the good range. Max damage is great though, because you have double, cunning 20, and then that comes down to plus 12 attack and 40 damage per hit. So Mission Vow, you use stealth, can get into situations and really dish the damage. Special abilities are awesome, especially because of cunning attack 20, stealth. Door gimmick is nice for a little door control, and then double attack is nice too, and then melee. Your ability synergy goes really well with the stealth, the cunning, the double. The versatility is good, especially being able to have stealth and door gimmick. KOTOR score, I'd say a really solid character, 4.7. She is a stealth assassin. Ooh, misspelled that there. Stealth assassin. Not too expensive. And then you have a really nice kit for assassin role. Like I've already said, the cunning 20, stealth. And then cons, just kind of poor HP and general survivability. So stealth helps the survivability, but once people get past that, watch out, you might die pretty quick. So definitely is a solid character for being kind of a stealth assassin. Next we have T3M4. I'll go pretty quick on this one. Cost is 17. I mean, the HP is fine. I didn't really know how to... It's kind of a different sort of character, but he has 30 HP. That's fine for being the type of droid he is. Not great survivability. Max damage, though, is really sweet. And the reason why I gave him a really good rating is because he has Flamethrower 20. And for what the situations he's going to find himself in, being able to do auto damage to anybody is fantastic. So, and then the special abilities, I just gave a 5 to it. And the reason why is Override, such a powerful power, so important. And then Flamethrower 20, being able to, that's the thing that's fun, is that this is a Astro Droid, basically, with Override, and can defend itself. Typically, they can't defend themselves, with one sort of exception, R2-D2 Astro Droid, who can defend himself against droids. And this T3M4 can shoot if you want to as well, so that's really fun. Ability synergies, it's very solid. Very versatile, of course. Both of those powers, like I mentioned. Very fantastic in terms of like options and things to do. So KOTOR score, gave a 4-5. Very highly rated. Specialty is just an elite Astro Droid. And then pros, it's the only astromech that can truly fight back. It can shoot, do Flamethrower 20. That's really nice. That's just nice to be able to defend yourself a little bit. However, the cons, I'd say, and this is where you really have to weigh it out, he's a more expensive option for Override than just using one of those typical droids that costs 8. So you're paying a lot more for an Astro Droid that admittedly has better stats, it can shoot, and it can also use Flamethrower, but just keep that in mind. So I think, personally, I'd probably just use just like one of the R units instead that costs 8 or 9 and save the points and get just a different character or more characters. I probably wouldn't use T3M4, but definitely it's a very good mini if you choose to do so. Next, we got Zaalbar. Zaalbar costs 29, a fringe Wookiee. Overall is good. I'd say the HP about this one is fantastic. So you got 100 HP, really, really high for a shooter, especially at 29. And then the range survivability, not good. Actually, no survivability is good on this one. You got bad defense. You do got good HP, and that's all you got going for you. Your attack is not great either. However, if Zaalbar gets close quarters, which Zaalbar's supposed to, with all of his powers, then it'll be solid. It'll be very good attack at 11. It's very nice. But just keep that in mind. You got to get there first. Max damage is solid. You have double attack. And then keep in mind a Mighty Swing can make that 2 attacks for 30. Special abilities are solid. Definitely for that close quarters type of fighting. You are a Wookiee, so you will benefit from certain commander effects that make this even better. Close quarters fighting is great. Double, melee swing, all go well for that kind of melee bruiser role. Ability synergy, like I've already said, these abilities all synergize very well to making a solid, just kind of melee, annoying melee bruiser type character, but not very versatile, so keep that in mind. A KOTOR score it's fine. Blue Milk is very average rating, and then not too expensive to pick up. So the pros, powers combine well for melee brawling, works well with other Wookiees or characters that modify Wookiees, so definitely get Zaalbar with some of those Wookiee squads because he'll do better. He'll do much better. The cons, though, aside from the melee brawling, pretty unimpressive ranged attacks, unimpressive abilities, unimpressive survivability. So definitely has a role. Not very versatile, but see what you can do to kind of bump that roll up, and you'll be in great shape. So a lot of fun there. Let's move on to Jarael. So Jarael is insane. Oh my goodness. So Jarael costs 23, a very, very cheap character, I'd say, for what she can provide. Awesome. I think this is actually one of the highest rated characters I've done in the entire game. So Jarael, awesome at a 4.6. I think that's the highest I've done, actually. That might be the highest. So HP is awesome. 70 HP on a melee that's 23. Pretty high. The survivability is fantastic. So for range and melee, you have both evade and parry, and you got some speed too. And you have force points to reroll if you so choose. So the only reason I didn't give her any more is just, I don't know. Why not? I probably should have just given Jarael a 5 across the board on both of those. I guess I didn't feel like it because there are certain characters that genuinely are really, really, really fantastic. Like, for example, she doesn't have stealth. If she had stealth, that's 5s across the board. But that'd be a little too powerful, of course. But still, fantastic survivability. I can't believe they gave evade and parry to one character. Just like, wow. That's a lot. So the attack is really good. 10 attack on a melee character that's this cheap. Very solid. Special abilities are exceptional. Totally exceptional. So you have speed 8, so you got some mobility to you. You got triple attack, really good, although the damage is 10, but it kind of doesn't matter for what she does. Evade and parry, incredible to have both of those. Shock Staff plus 10. So Shock Staff plus 10 is actually kind of a wicked power. So against non-living enemies, you have a damage bonus, so you can do up to 60 damage against those characters. But against living enemies, you activate them with a save of 11. That's incredible. That is actually really, really great. So if you can get Jarael into a mass of annoying characters, or just get Jarael to one character you want to neutralize, she'll stay alive with the parry, with the force powers and rerolling, with the evade, and then she can use triple attack to do a lot of opportunities to activate that one particular character that you want to knock out. So like, oh my gosh. So her versatility and her abilities synergy is through the roof. Absolutely through the roof. Because of what I just said, the versatility, hard to kill, can activate characters, can wreck droids and non-living characters, is a force user, so can really benefit from, force powers or other characters that help force people in a lot of ways. So that's all fantastic. So KOTOR score, I gave a 5. I think Jarael is just so freaking powerful. A surprisingly cheap character to pick up. So she's a versatile melee fighter, survivalist. On Blue Milk, she comes in at 8.93, which is one of the highest Blue Milk ratings you can get. I think the only character that's higher might be like, I don't know, Mouse Droids, Masamata. I don't know. I'd have to take a look. But really fantastic. So pros, a total unicorn, can do so much. A shock staff, speed 8, triple, evade, parry. I think that might be some of the best combination of special abilities kind of compacted into one, support character you can possibly imagine. And then the cons, she could hit a little harder, I guess. Like I said, 10 damage against most units, most likely. And then you have to move and get there and then use triple attack. But you'll probably do it because you have the survivability. So could hit a little harder, but who cares? So Jarael is freaking busted powerful. So a lot of fun there. Fun character. And not too hard to pick up. Next we got Jedi Exile. Cost is 49, HP 120. So that is solid HP for a 49. That's pretty standard. A lot of melee characters have 120 HP in the 40s and even 50s. The range survivability it's not the best. Nothing really is helping you out. Force defense can be helpful against specific force situations when you're close, but that's about it. However, melee survivability is solid. You have lightsaber duelist, and force defense. You don't have any block, save of 11 type things to help you out, but that's okay. So 24 defense though against melee, that is really good. So definitely has good melee survivability. The attack's really good at 14, can't complain. The max damage is very standard. On top of that, you have force repulse, which could be a really powerful damage doing thing as well. Special abilities are really good. So you just have double on melee. Empathy is nice. You can do some interesting things with savage characters and with your commander effect. So keep that in mind. I'll get to that later. And then duelist is really good too. Force powers are awesome. And this is why they're awesome. Is you have force 2 and renewal and you have force defense. So it's really, really fun that this character has force defense because that's a pretty strong power when certain circumstances call for it. And you can recharge and you can use it multiple times throughout a game. Also, you have force repulse, which is a really nice kind of defensive focused power where you can really kind of blast people away, and you can do it multiple times, which is a lot of fun. So when it comes to force powers, I think those are, to be able to do both of those, really nice powers, and you have renewal so you can do more of it. Ability synergy, I think abilities synergize very, very well, in my opinion. And then the versatility is really good. So the reason why the versatility is really fantastic is because you can help savage characters. You can duel. You can, minimize force powers if you need to. You can blast people away from you. And then your commander effect is one of the best commander effects in the game. So much versatility going on here. And then your commander effect is allies within 6 squares gain extra attack. So like General Obi-Wan Kenobi, this is the best version of this commander effect out there. It applies to allies, and it just gives extra attack, no other stipulations. So mix in some... The reason why the other one's better, why General Kenobi's is better, is because there's awesome options to give it to, great options to give it to on Republic, and Masamada can just make it unlimited range. You need the mouse droids in this case, and there are some nice characters, there are some good characters in Old Republic to give it to, but definitely the fringe characters will be really nice in this situation. So fantastic commander effect. KOTOR score is a 4.8. Definitely fantastic character. Blue Milk is 8.6. That's one of the highest ratings again. That's very, very high rating. So I gave this like a melee duelist preeminently, and also has a lot of other versatile options in store as well. So Jedi Exile, fantastic. So second best iteration of the extra attack commander effect in game. Strong force powers, and then very creative strategies with empathy and commander effect. So keep that in mind. And then the cons, maybe like less good against range characters, but not really too big of a deal. Just a lot of really good tools to work with the Jedi Exile, in my opinion. So next we have, I think this is the last one, is Calo Nord. I want to throw in here. So Calo Nord is a 31. A fair character. Not horrible, but unfortunately a bit underwhelming for... actually Blue Milk has a devastating rating, but I think Calo Nord is pretty bad, but maybe it could be worse. Anyway, hit points are fair. 60 is okay for a shooter at this level. Could be better. Actually should be better. The range survivability, I'd say, and the melee survivability is fine. And the reason why, I'm just giving credit for the avoid defeat in that situation. The attack's good. 9 attack's fine. The bounty hunter helps out a little bit, so that's fine as well. The max damage is fine. Double attack and 20, all standard stuff. The special abilities, I'd say, are pretty great. Avoid defeat's a great ability to have. Bounty hunter and double, that's nice to be able to take care of some melee characters, unique characters. And then grenades 20. Grenades 10 is bad, but grenades 20, that's a fine ability if the situation calls for it. So I'd say it's a pretty solid group of powers. The ability synergy, though, it's good. The versatility I think is pretty fine as well. It's just, what is the problem with this character? So KOTOR score I gave 2.5. A lot of those other ratings I gave pretty good scores to, but the biggest problem is his cost, and kind of what he can do in general for his stats and cost. So this character, he's a 4.83 on Blue Milk. That's bad. He's a bounty hunter, survivalist. His pros are he does have some versatility and survivability, but he's a bad combination of nice abilities, I'd say underwhelming stats, especially HP, and then expensiveness. So his cost is too high. So those things, they grind gears. They don't go well together. He's too expensive for what he ultimately can do. And like I said, he'll likely die too quick. So it would be nice if he had a little more HP for having avoid defeat, or maybe ways to kind of make it get used more. But he's just, I don't know, it's just such a strange character because he's expensive. It's going to be hard to set up to use double attack because you'll just get hit really hard, probably pretty quickly. I'd say Calo Nord is just an awkward character to use, unfortunately. I think is maybe a little too criticized on Blue Milk, but very fair. Has clear problems, and he is what he is. So that is it. So let's move on to our final ratings. This will be a lot of fun. There's quite a few characters to go through. So last place is Calo Nord, unsurprisingly. Close second is Carth. They both stink. I'd actually almost rather have Calo Nord than Carth Onasi, personally. But Carth Onasi does have some of those really good, intuition, double, twin, some good powers. Bastila Shan, unfortunately, 2.93, not a terrible character, but just underpowered. HK47, a little bit better. Zaalbar, they're solid characters here. Bao-Dur is fine. Next Vice is Marr. Atton Rand. So now we're at the 3/3/5s I'd say are pretty solid characters in general. Atton Rand's really nice. Mission Vow, T3M4. Now we're getting to the 4 range. These are really excellent characters. Canderous Ordo. Then Jolee Bindo. The Jedi Exile. I think most people probably put Jolee Bindo higher, but it didn't quite work out that way in my calculation, but still, fantastic character. Juhani. Kreia. Mira at 4.23. Mira might be a little overrated with this, but still fantastic character. And then Jarael, 4.6. So Jarael just blows everyone out of the water in terms of final rating. Fantastic character. So we got quite a big spectrum here across the board. Some really poor characters, some really great characters. And so last thing is I kind of put this up here. It's going to be really small, so you'll probably have to do full screen if you want to see the whole matrix. But feel free to go through here. So many different powers. The thing that's kind of fun is it's like the KOTOR cast, where these characters, some of them are in KOTOR 1, some in KOTOR 2, some in both. But they all have different roles, different powers, different interesting things that they bring to the table, which is a lot of fun. It's it's kind of a point in the game. All these characters do different things and are part of the crew for a reason. So I'd say overall, a lot of fun characters. Even some of the underwhelming ones are kind of fun in some ways, but I'll leave it there. Anyways, thank you so much if you stuck through this video. It was a long one. Sorry it took a while to get out, but as you can see, a lot of characters to do on this. I think there's like 17 of them, and it was a lot of fun. I've been looking forward to this for a while. Next, I want to get to probably the Force Unleashed characters, and if you have any other classes or groups of characters or unique characters that we haven't gotten to yet, definitely comment below. So again, please subscribe, please comment down below. Would love to hear your thoughts on these characters and what you think about them. And until next time, have a good one.